Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Sunday. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well in season. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. So guys, I want to release this download that I received. Um, it's going to get deep. You're going to have to catch this in the spiritual realm, the way it's related to your particular promise. Last week, I think sometime, I stated that, and a lot of you guys actually agreed from reading your comments in that recording, that many of us are having a hard time connecting spiritually. It's almost like the enemy is attacking us where we're so distracted when we try to connect. There's just distraction, or we can't receive what we need. Listen, God is very, very strategic. So if you start to feel a pull to connect spiritually in a different way, be sure you're obedient there, right? That can look like, just for example, you may be somebody who only receive your confirmations, insights solely from reading your word. But now the enemy is attacking that. Every time you try to read, you can't get absolutely nothing, right? Everything is like humble jumble, like nothing makes sense. You just feel so like we're being attacked in different ways, but God will always give you a strategic way. This is why you got to be so careful that you stay tapped into your convictions. God is very strategic. He'll give you a different path in the way you hear from him. For example, he may be calling you to connect with nature more. Like you may feel an urge to start working out more, right? He wants you to take long walks, right? Where things is quiet, things are not distracted. He'll start giving you downloads and confirmations and insights in that way, right? Or those of you who are like me and you're not really dreamers, you get dreams every now and then. So you know that when you get a dream, it's something serious. But typically, you don't get dreams. You get your word from promptings, the word, etc., etc. Now you're having dreams. So that's just a few different examples on how he can change the path in which you need to hear from him right now, because he knows that the enemy is attacking one form. You can hear from God in different ways. You can hear from God in different ways. So catch this in the spiritual realm, how it relates to you in your promise. Many of you guys have recently felt that the very promise that God had given you no longer exists. It's almost like you've kind of wiped it out of your mind because either it hasn't happened yet, or you grew frustrated, or a lack of desire for the promise. Like it's just, you got to the point where like it is what it is. But again, you've come into agreement where that was just never God. Or I just like, I don't even care anymore, that type of thing, right? In addition to getting ahead of God, which a lot of us did, some people lag behind, but in addition to lagging behind or getting ahead of God, there was a giant in your territory. There was a giant in the very land that God promised you. This giant can look like people, places, or things, but you know that you know that you know what it is. The giant that was in that territory knew exactly who you were. Meaning, when you came around, they knew it was something different about you. See, anybody else could have come around. They didn't give them a hard time because they were no threat. When you came around, chosen one, because you are a light, because people see things in you that sometimes we don't see in ourselves when we're present in that moment, they knew you were some kind of threat. They may have not known exactly what kind of threat, but you were a threat to that land. So the enemy literally caused chaos, some type of disagreement, some type of dropping lies in other people's spirit about you. But more than anything, they knew if you got into that land, they would be removed. They would be removed. Anything that God has for you, especially if it's a big destiny, a big promise, you're going to have giants in your land. So that very giant, that person, place, or thing, they then started to create a narrative about you to get other people in the land to jump on board. And the other people had no clue. They're just going based on whatever the giant, person, place, or thing says or does. So now what happens now, this looks like a army of people, places, or things, and it looks like it's too much for you. Do you know who you are? You can have 100 giants. They can never be enough for one chosen person. Now, of course, the enemy will get in your head and make you think that, because once you start to see these giants and how they accumulated and how they created this army almost to go against you, the enemy will start to get in your head to give you some kind of fear tactic, like that's too much for you. It can never be. There's not enough people on your side. Child. All you need is God on your side. All you need is faith. The key is, we're human. Even if you start to get fearful, even if you start to get weary, you have to always lock on to what God said to you, even in your weary moments. Meaning, you don't come in agreement with what they're saying or doing. You just gotta wait on God, because see, God will always come back in. Okay. Even though they created so much chaos in your land, the very thing that you're called to, person, place, or thing, always and still knew that God sent you. So if you can imagine something, the visionary in me, there's all kind of things popping up in my head vision-wise. If you can imagine some type of, I don't know, party or get together, like there's just a lot of chaos going on. There's like 200 people in a building, and they're all dancing, like everybody's arm, like it's chaos, right? Everybody's dancing, just chaos. But then there's one person who's in front of that crowd, and that person is very still, and that very person eyes is locked on you, because they know it's something about you and that God has sent you. But that crowd behind them is an example of all the chaos in the land, all the people who are in agreement, basically everybody who's against you. But that one still thing knows that God sent you, but they're struggling too, because it's almost like, well, how do I go against everybody who I've always known, or people who've always had my back, even though half of those people in the crowd never had their back, but are there for their own intentions. But the person, place, or thing in which God is calling you to help can't even see that. They're blind. They're blind. So when you feel like people, places, and things are rejecting you, it's not even about you. They're blind. The enemy had them blind, and then all the chaos in the land, all the giants in the territory, all the demonic forces that's fighting over there against you, they always knew. They know. But the struggle was real. I say all that to say, God is about to remove the giant in the land. Person, place, or thing. Get in where you fit in. There was never nothing you could do. Your only job was to stand and be obedient to what God told you to do. There's some of you, when you came encountered with that giant, right? It almost felt like a block. It felt like a betrayal. It felt like it was unfair, because why are you like hating on me? Or why are you trying to like stop me from the very territory that God is calling me to help? So you felt like a betrayal. You felt like it was a betrayal. In fact, it may have been. It may have been, because the enemy uses people like to literally flip on you. Some of these people you may have been cool with at some point, and all of a sudden they flipped on you. This is why you got to be careful too, really quickly. When the enemy starts giving you downloads about people, you got to be careful, because the enemy will literally try to give you download about a person that God really sent to help you. But now you're confused. Oh my goodness, I think you're child. But see, if your spirit is right, you would always know. Spirits recognize spirits. There was never anything physically that you could have done in the form of fighting, in the form of that would have removed that giant that you encountered on your last try, maybe. I don't know. But there was something in your spirit where God told you to just release it. This ain't your fight. I got this. But then you didn't really hear about anything anytime soon. Our time is not God's time. Do you know how many times God will tell us to be still while he fight our battles, while he slay giants that you don't even know that he's currently slaying? You don't know what people are going through. God is dealing with people that you don't even know about. Here's another thing that God is doing. Oh, child. Here's another thing that God is doing that's going to make these giants get out of the land. God is removing the scales off of people's eyes. Why do you think a lot of you guys recently, God have removed the scales, and you are now seeing people for who they always truly been? You could have been helping a person who you really thought God sent you to help, and then God removed the scale, and you now realize that person was full blown using you. But it's cool. It's cool because your intent was great. So your intent will be blessed. But the point is, God is removing the scales and showing you people's true intentions and things that you've always missed. He's showing you different kind of, I don't want to get too deep there, because I want to stay on there, and that's not what this is about. I'm trying to make a point on the way he's removing scales from your eyes. He's removing scales from other people's eyes. So things, the giants that were in the land, or that are still, some are in the land, that had certain things blind, God is allowing the scales to be removed, and they themselves are starting to see people in the land for who they truly are. And so a dismissal process will go on over there. where, for example, let's just say there were 50 giants. There's a dismissal process that has absolutely nothing to do with you. It does, but it doesn't, right? Whereas if God is releasing people one by one, meaning the giants, where now versus you trying to go up against 50, it may only be 2. And then the process will continue. Those of you who walked away from the very promise that you know, and those of you, you know who I'm speaking about. These are the people that there is no question in your mind. You know that you know the very promise that God released to you. God is going to start waking your spirit back up to that thing, igniting your spirit all over again. The very thing that left your spirit and you no longer had desire for, you're going to start to feel a desire come back. Here's the thing. A lot of people since then, since you've encountered that last giant, a lot of people have gotten off course. The enemy sent you a counterfeit. You went through major spiritual attacks. Many people were at their lowest of their lowest. The enemy was attacking you. Why do you think God is removing the scales off of your eyes down about certain people? He's removing your scales. He's removing the scales off of your eyes so you can remove them. This can also be people, places, or things. Because these were the things that were accumulated. These are counterfeit things that you picked up after running into that giant. So now that God is about to bring some things back together, right? See, God... Sometimes God will be working on one side, and then there's times he's working on 2. So he's working on slaying giants on this side. He's working on removing scales on that side. He's working on opening up people's true spiritual eyes to see you accordingly on that side. And he's cleaning up the counterfeits and soul ties that you done going to get on your side. He knew what you were up against. Don't ever let anybody make you think that you got to run from God because you got off track and, well, I done went and got a counterfeit. Lord, got a soul tie. Listen, repent, keep it moving. That's a trick from the enemy. God already knew. Your job is to follow your conviction. Because let me tell you, honey, when he come back and get you, he's going to come back and get you, right? He's going to let you know. I saw you. Oh, yeah, you been slipping real bad, right? But it's time to get back on course. Now it's going to be your choice. Are you going to stay and play out with counterfeits, person, places, or things, because you've gotten comfortable there and now maybe you don't want to put the work in order to expel certain things? Or are you going to be obedient? Let me move who I need to move. Let it be through opening your eyes to people's true intention that you missed. Let it be revealing certain spirits to you that people carry that you missed all along. But it's cool. I removed the scales because now you will know the truth. Before he opens that door back to the promised land, meaning, let's just say, for example, he's 90% done slaying giants, cleaning people up, opening people's eyes. Let's just say he's still working over there, but you can feel it coming to a head, right? Because you can feel it coming back to your spirit. So it's not 100% per se. But in that process, he has to clean you completely back up. Remember, when you first started on this journey, you weren't perfect You ain't that cute, boo, right? You still had some stuff about you, but you were solid when it came down to alignment. This is prior to coming into the Giants. But once you came to the Giants and the tax, things like that, you got dirty all over again. Just keep it real. So now that's what he's doing. He's cleaning you up. He's breaking these soul ties, right? He's removing demonic forces that were around you that you didn't even, he's removing controlling spirits. He's removing things. He's cleaning you up. He can't send you there dirty. That would defeat the purpose. You were always meant to clean the other side up. So now both sides dirty. Make it make sense. So we have to get back in full alignment, how we were prior to running into giants or prior to the major attacks that we took. Obedience over emotions. So you got to see this thing from a spiritual point of view, because it will make it easier for you to start releasing things and defeating things and all that stuff in the physical realm, the fleshly realm, when you know it's a requirement for you to receive certain things in the spiritual realm. Stay the course, guys. Giants are being removed. The desires will return, but you will have your insight will be different. Initially, the insights were all too much flesh was involved with the insights, truth be told. Too much of our own flesh, our own wants and desires too, were somehow entangled. We got it entangled with the promise itself, where really that promise itself was always about what God needed and how God needed to use you. But we had some of our own little stuff up in there too. But now that God have burned that thing up off of you by helping you to release that desire from a fleshly standpoint, from that hasty standpoint, now it's going to be different. So the promise is, but you will realize that it's more about God rather than about you. It's your